hand up to the tramp's chin and with a sudden vicious jerk snapped his neck. Without releasing his hold, he cast a glance around the square to make sure he was still unobserved, and then dragged the tramp back down the alleyway and into the restaurant. His comrade merely glanced at him, shrugged, and said, "Gotovi? Ready?" He nodded and they lit the candles. They closed the connecting door behind them as they walked through to the kitchen. Before leaving, they turned on one of the gas taps on the stove. It would take some time for the candles to burn down enough to ignite the oil and alcohol-soaked cloths. And by then, there would be a sufficient build-up of gas in the kitchen to cause an explosive fireball that would ensure the complete destruction of the restaurant. Moving with the same unhurried pace, they closed the outside door, walked back up the alleyway, and then disappeared into the side street. A few moments later, there was the sound of a car engine starting, and they drove away slowly, making sure they avoided attracting any attention. It was 15 minutes before the first smoke began to drift from around the restaurant's front door. By then, the bonfire of cloths and furniture was already well alight. As the curtains began to burn, the gas seeping from the kitchen ignited, and there was a blast that blew out the windows and a fireball that engulfed the whole building in seconds. The restaurant owner and his wife, sleeping in the flat on the upper floor of the building, were both asphyxiated by smoke as they tried to escape the burning building. The only other fatality was the tramp, his body so blackened and burned that neither his identity nor the real cause of his death were ever established. Chapter 2. Fresh from a session sharpening his close-quarter battle skills in the killing house of the SAS's Hereford base, Dan Spider Shepherd was leaning against the side of an Army 4-ton truck, soaking up some weak spring sunshine while he waited for the rest of his 4-man patrol to arrive. They had worked together, seen enough action and survived enough close calls, including a near-fatal wound for Shepherd himself, to become even closer to each other than they were to their own families. Formerly all members of D Squadron, one of the regiment's 4 Sabre squadrons, the fighting troops, they were now the lead patrol in the newly formed X Squadron. Formerly known as the Revolutionary Warfare Wing, it had been tasked with the Dark Ops role formerly performed by MI6, also known as SIS. A series of botched operations beginning with its failings in the Falklands had undermined the UK government's trust in MI6. And Margaret Thatcher's personal support and enthusiasm for the SAS had seen them given the active role in Dark Ops, leaving MI6 restricted to providing HUMINT and SIGINT, human and signals intelligence, and logistical support. The truck Shepherd was leaning against was parked on what had once been the parade ground, but that had always been the most underused part of the base, since the SAS had never set much store by the drill, marching and parades that the Green Army ceaselessly practiced. Eventually, the parade ground was converted into a car park, with a part marked by a huge white circle with an H in the middle reserved for use as a helipad. Like all SAS fighting troops, Shepherd and his men were on a regular rotation. Operations, rest, retraining, standby, and then back to ops again. They were just winding up their period on retraining, and so were heading up into the hills for one last test, the fan dance, a forced TAB, tactical assault to battle march with full kit over Penny Fan, the highest peak in the Brecons, and back again. The distinctive profile of the summit was said to be engraved on the heart of every SAS man. Shepherd and his patrol mates had all done it as part of SAS selection years before, and it held no terrors for them. But there was always a good-natured competition between them, trying to clip a few seconds from their personal best times. The patrol medic, Geordie Mitchell, was the first to arrive. He had a thick Newcastle accent that many Southerners found almost indecipherable. His hair was thinning, he had watery blue eyes and a pale milk-bottle skin that burned very easily. And even in the weak spring sunshine, he was wearing a bush hat to shade his face and had slathered his nose in suntan cream. Shepherd smiled.